Hello and welcome to another week of the Under Center podcast. Our glorious leader and holiday man maker Dara is late joining us, Rain. So we're going to start off and kind of freeball this as we go. Why don't we, just to kill time, you almost beat the Chiefs this week. That must have been the most excitement you've had as a Panthers fan all season, I would say. Probably a lot of frustration as well, though. I saw many texts to say if we had even half an ounce of composure, we might be winning this game.
Yeah, look, this is the first loss we've taken all year that I don't need to be kept away from cliff edges for the fear of throwing myself off them. Yeah, it was a decent performance all around from the Panthers. I did give them a lot of stick. Composure levels were not really there. A few critical false starts in goal-to-go situations, which really just didn't help with the offense, and then just the defense could not stop that offense. Admittedly, it is a bit of a juggernaut, maybe not so much this season, but we know what that Kansas City Chiefs offense can be, and they really did kind of put it to the Panthers defense, who are getting healthier, so I'd expect a stronger performance out of them moving forward. They did get away with a lot of holding calls on that O-line, but the Chiefs always do. So I'm not blaming the referees on this one. The Chiefs deserve to win that game. But it's exciting to be in a position where we've lost a game, and I feel hope going into next week.
Yeah. And look, on the opposite side of things, we keep going there because for me, the Chiefs are they're so interesting. They've survived so many games this year. And look, we don't really play the what if game at the end of the day. Your record is your record. And good teams win these, right? We saw it was a tie game. Mahomes stepped up. I think he broke a 40-yard run to set up the field goal that eventually won it. Really good teams do this. We don't want to go on about our teams too much, but you know what I mean? I happen to be watching the Commanders this week, and exactly the opposite happened, where at the end of the game, you had a chance to be clinical, had a chance to get a result or at least bring it to overtime, and they couldn't get it done. So that's what the Chiefs do. But I did see, very interestingly, somebody released a stat of the what if the NFL in an alternate scenario. I basically took any game. I can't remember if it was 1-score games or 3-point games, and flipped every one of those. And the Chiefs would have lost 5 games that they ended up winning. So I think at this point there's such a dynasty that everyone's kind of hoping for the eventual return of the Chiefs back into the main pack. And the chasing pack can catch up a little bit, but it's what really good teams do. They close it out. They win even when they have to win ugly. And at the end of the day, the quality might be lacking there to really dominate over the course of a game. But when the quality needs to be there over the last minute, 2 minutes of a game, they always seem to find a way to come up with an answer, whether that's a defensive stop or an offensive stop, or even special teams. We've seen them manage to pull random stuff out of the bag. Dara, welcome back. The holidays lasted about 10 minutes longer than you were expecting, it seems like.
Probably not even that long. I'd say good for another 6 minutes or something like that, maybe. It came by in a flash, and I am now back in the nice cold scenery of Dublin. We had Storm Bert, wasn't it, at the weekend? Wasn't it,
yeah,
Bert?
we did.
Yeah.
You weren't flying through that, were you?
No, I was home by Thursday night. And as soon as I got off the plane on Thursday night with the cold, any colour that I would have gotten on holidays just gone straight away. Left my face.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying I would get any colour, but
yeah, one of the main stories though this week is a bit rich. You talking about the cold when on that same Thursday night, the Browns were laying an ass whipping on the former Seahawks, Russell Wilson. Thank God his unbeaten streak has come to an end, because I don't know if I could have borne him coming into the starting quarterback spot of the Steelers, going undefeated playoff run, and all of a sudden the Steelers are contenders again. I don't know why I don't like him. I predicted his downfall, and so I'm kind of hoping he stays there. He doesn't have a late career revival, just for my own credibility.
You just want to be proven right. That's all.
Yeah, exactly. But one of the interesting questions, and we won't spend too much time in it, but I'm starting to build a little bit more and more every week of maybe this is a real question. Could Jameis Winston be comeback player of the year? He has really sparked this Browns. Okay, they don't always play fantastic football, but he is by far and away the best thing about them at the moment in a lot of ways.
Yeah, absolutely. More through circumstance, obviously, with the injury to, quarterback who shall not be named. Yeah, like you say, when you said comeback player of the year, I'm trying to think instantly in my head of who's performed well this year that has been injured last year, or maybe that wasn't playing this year. And I can't think of any. Like, obviously, Sam Darnold is probably in the running for that at the moment.
Damar Hamlin properly came back this season, like he's playing actual football games. So
yeah, but
that probably
chance to give that, if you're not going to give it to him the year after he returns from dying, he's not going to get it the year after he returns. The year after the year he returns from dying.
Yeah.
You give it to smoking Joe Flacco instead.
Yeah, that was rough.
Well, that's
kind of telling though that the front runner this year is once again the guy who comes in place of an injured Deshaun Watson. Not a great look for Deshaun Watson.
Good luck charm. I'm telling you now, Daniel Jones should go to wherever Deshaun Watson ends up and just goes as a backup. It's a great good luck charm for restarting a career. I tell you that much.
That's a good shout for like 2025 comeback player of the year, Daniel Jones. It's a great show.
I don't know. I think he'll be lucky if he doesn't end up on the scrap heap. I think there's some back. Like we were talking to Rian in the chat. Even the Panthers don't want Daniel Jones, and it's not like their quarterback room is particularly hot at the moment. I heard he doesn't want to go to the Raiders either, which limits his options quite severely to basically just the Titans now at this point.
I think he wants to go to a playoff contending team.
So he wants a ring.
Well, like,
that's ever want to play football again.
It's not as a starter now. It's not as a starter, obviously, because he's not going to start
as a safety. Join the Chiefs as a safety.
Well, he was playing scout safety for the Giants.
Exactly.
So he's got
wheels.
Yeah, he's got some experience there now. So it's crazy. You know the crazy, and I know we kind of wanted to touch on it in the chat, but the comparisons of the Jets and the Giants this season alone, I think is crazy. So if you let me break it down for you this way. So if you look at the Giants, okay, they let Saquon Barkley go, which obviously as weeks go on is just the stupider decision. They had that hard knocks off season where John Mara was like steadfast in saying, I want to keep Saquon. And Joe Shane was like, nah, we don't need him. Why are we going to pay him that much money to, be handed off the ball? Or was it, we're not paying Daniel Jones all this money to hand off the ball to Saquon? And, hindsight is just brilliant in that case with that. But you have then a head coach and GM that should be probably fired by now. You got rid of your quarterback, which I don't necessarily think is the main issue, but you still got rid of him. Your stadium is empty by the end of the third quarter against the Bucs last year. You got to take an absolute whooping. You signed Drew Lock to be the second string quarterback, and I'm guessing they probably told him you're going to fight for the starting one. And then when your starting quarterback is getting released, you're still the second string quarterback to the third string of Tommy Cutlets, who, in his first play got absolutely whacked by the Bucs defense. But if you flip it over then to the Jets, it's kind of almost an opposite side of things where they have got rid of the head coach. They have got rid of the GM. They
brought in lots of talent.
They brought in lots of talent. And probably the one thing that could have, and the one person whose fault it is, who is still there, is your starting quarterback, who you won't get rid of. Because it was, I think we can see it now in the fact that the record since Robert Saleh's been fired, it's not his fault. Joe Douglas, how can it be his fault? He's the one that has drafted you players like, Garrett Wilson and Sauce Gardner that have actually given your franchise a chance over. I know Sauce Gardner's had a bad year this year, but
rubbish. He's been rubbish for 2 years.
He was good last year. He was not last year.
As soon as they clamped down on the holding calls, he's been fucking ass. Yeah. He hasn't had an interception in 2 years.
But he has I'm going back to Joe Shane, though. He has been a good GM for the Jets. Probably one of their better GMs that they've had over the last decade. But Woody Johnson is just like, you know what? Now get rid of them. I'm keeping Aaron Rodgers. Me and him are going to do ayahuasca in a cave in the offseason because we're best buds now. And he's going to be GM, head coach, and quarterback next year. I just think, like, one move, like, if you had made one different move for either side, could have changed both teams' fortunes so much. Like, if you'd gotten rid of the head coach and GM and with the Giants, I think probably would have been better for them than keeping them and getting rid of Daniel Jones. And if you'd gotten rid of Aaron Rodgers and kept Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas, you probably would have been doing better with them. But it's just the fact that they're both New York teams, I just find that so fascinating.
Yeah, it's a bad day to be from New Jersey, that's for sure. And the two teams combined only have 5 wins. Who I think most disappointed is a very interesting question, as you pointed out there, because the Giants got everything wrong. And so as a fan base, that's tough to deal with. Obviously, Saquon, I think even the most basic fan was appealing and screaming for the Giants to re-sign Saquon Barkley, and they didn't do it, and they wouldn't do it. And now all those clips from the Hard Knocks just keep coming out and keep looking more and more disastrous, where he's saying, man, I'm going to be so upset if somebody else signs him and he starts going for loads of yards. And versus the Jets that almost did, and Rain, you don't like Garrett Wilson, but man, we had to listen to the Jets fans the last 2 years. They got every draft pick they wanted. The fan base was behind every free agent they signed. They got Devontae Adams. They got Aaron Rodgers. They got Salah as well, was a big hire back when he was on the head coach market. They did everything, and they're still miserable. So I don't know which fan base I'd rather not be in. One where you've kind of self-destructed, or one where you got everything you wanted and it still leaves a bitter taste in your mouth.
I'll be honest, there's a bit of a negative spin on what the Giants are doing at the moment. Now, there are some issues out there, one of which is Brian Daboll. I don't think he's up to the task of being a head coach in the NFL at this time. But the other things that we're pointing fingers at and kind of accusing the Giants of being a poorly run organization, kind of disagree with it, to be honest. As a fan of a football team that has been miserable for a good number of years now, I know for a fact that a good running back on a bad team is practically worthless. A good running back on a good team is excellent, right? He's putting up the numbers with the Eagles, and it's really showing that this guy is a top-notch player. But for the Giants, I don't know if he's going to be that same guy. I mean, I'm just looking back at the Christian McCaffrey situation in Carolina, the year that he left, right? Everybody said the offense would die a death once he left the organization. Guess what? Production went nowhere. In fact, the running game actually improved after he left because he wasn't the focal point of the offense anymore. The same with Daniel Jones. I know Darryl was saying that, he would have done it the flip way, get rid of the quarterback in the Jets, keep the quarterback in the Giants. I don't think you can. After 5.5 years of Daniel Jones being Daniel Jones, it's enough. Just leave it. He deserved to go. I don't agree with Tommy Cutlets being the starting quarterback out there. I feel really bad for Drew Lock having come in there and being told that when this guy does go down, it's your opportunity to lead us to the promised land, and then he gets fucking thrown out for the clown show that is Tommy Cutlets because he's a New Jersey boy and all this sort of stuff. That's tough to watch, but some of the decisions being made in the Giants organization, I 100% agree with.
Well, look, I actually will back you up, and I'm going to agree with even a point that you just disagreed with in the quarterback move. I think it was the right move because I think, number one, Drew Lock only came in this offseason. He's still learning the offense. Tommy DeVito was there last year. He did bring a spark, and fundamentally, I think Drew Lock was brought in because the Giants organization, as evidenced by the contract they gave Daniel Jones and the rhetoric they've had for pretty much the whole 5 years, even before he made that playoff appearance, was that he is the man, that they see what we don't see, and that they think he has the chance to break out at any moment. I really do think they brought in Drew Lock for when the Giants were on a run and Daniel Jones went down for an unexpected injury, that he would come in and the level would not dip too much. Now that it was clearly in bits from the start, I think they're banking their investment of Drew Lock. They're saying, right, we're going to keep you out of the firing line, make sure you get the reps and the understanding in the meetings, and we're just going to throw Danny DeVito out there, or whatever his name is, Tommy DeVito out there. Because number one, he can take those licks, like Dara just said, first play of the game. He can take those licks. No one gives a shite. And as Dara said, there's no bums in the seats anymore. And last season, he had this kind of Jersey boy, wheeler dealer, Tommy Cutlets vibe coming in, and it at least put bums in seats. And they won a couple of games they probably shouldn't have won. And I think they were just hoping to get that. I honestly think at this point, the Giants are tanking. I think that's very clear, because if they weren't, like you said, there's no GM, there's no head coach on planet Earth that thinks Tommy DeVito is a better quarterback than Drew Lock, regardless of what your thoughts are about Drew Lock. Whether you think he played well in Denver or didn't play well in Denver, that's kind of irrelevant. For sure, he's a better quarterback.
My concern would be, though, tanking for what, right?
Yes.
So obviously the main situation out there is the quarterback room, that they don't have somebody moving forward. The draft class this year is not a guarantee. Shedeur Sanders is being touted as one of the top draft prospects at the quarterback position this season. I just don't see it, to be honest. He's playing against poor opposition. He has a freak athlete in Travis Hunter to throw the ball to 9 times out of 10. I just don't see it. And then you have Cam Ward, who obviously looks like a physical specimen, certainly capable of making elite plays, but his decision-making seems to be quite poor. And that's what you saw with Daniel Jones as well. I don't know if he deserves that kind of top-class first overall draft pick coming out this year.
Well, the only thing is, I would say, if you're going to be in the bottom 10 anyway, which it looks like the Giants would be, even if they played Drew Lock, you might as well be the worst. Even if the answer to your quarterback problems isn't in the draft and you evaluate it like that and the Giants agree with you, you still have a first round or a first number one pick that you can trade away to maybe some other sucker that didn't evaluate the quarterbacks the same way you did, or maybe someone who doesn't need a quarterback but still needs an elite level talent somewhere else that they're willing to come up to one. So that's why I think they're still tanking, because at the end of the day, if you're going to be towards the bottom, you might as well be the best at it and really nail your concrete to the floor and just get as low as you can.
Yeah.
I'm also hoping
to go back to it. Sorry, I was just going to go back to it. I think that I don't want it to come across that I don't think the Giants are making the right moves. I think you're right. Like, to be out on Daniel Jones is fine, but I think there was other moves to make first in that organization in terms of head coach and GM removal, rather than, getting rid of Daniel Jones first and saying that he was a problem and everything's going to be okay now. But about the whole Shedeur Sanders thing, and the rumor that it's a package deal that his dad has to come in and coach if he gets picked. If you're the team, are you on board with that? I wouldn't necessarily be on board.
If you're Jerry Jones, you are. Like, that's just exactly what he's looking for.
I think if you're another team, no. I do think there's scenarios where the head coaching position is kind of up for grabs, and why not Sanders over anyone else? But I don't believe that it truly is a package deal. But yeah, well, look, we're not a college American football show. I have strong opinions on Sanders. I think he's a load of hot air. He's done a lot of damage when he said he was going to come in and change things. He went to Jackson State, which is part of, for anyone who's not familiar with the college football scenario or scene, that's part of the historically black university and colleges. And he came in there and he brought a lot of hype. He brought a lot of players and he brought a lot of eyeballs. And then before 2 years was up, he had already moved on to this Colorado gig. And his whole thing was, these kids are underrepresented. There's just as much talent, and we need to bring eyeballs to this game. He brought them for like a split second, and then he left. And now if he's going to do the same thing to Colorado, where he's going to destroy the walk-ons that he had there, destroy the scholars, like the scholarship players that he had there, put them all out to pasture and bring in all his own people, only to then again leave before he's even seen a single freshman go all the way through the 4 years of university there with them. I think it's a load of hogwash that what he's been spouting the whole thing, that he's coming to change the game and he's going to put the power in the players' hands and not in the athletic director's hands and the coach's hands. it's a load of shite. So I think the NFL guys, there's certain franchises that want that circus that comes along with them, but probably understand. And look, he doesn't look like a terrible coach. They're winning games when they weren't winning games before. And like you said, Rain, sure, it's probably because they've elevated the talent level, but at the same time, whether it's through his coaching or through his name alone, he brought that talent there and he's using it at least somewhat proficiently. So I agree with you. I think the Cowboys are an ideal scenario. They love hype of any description. And I think if he can bring free agent players like he has in college, there's a chance that regardless of what his talent level is as a coach, he can up the skill level, and the Cowboys are having a poor year, so they could get an immediate rebound from that. I think there's very few other franchises, though, that maybe want that kind of rigmarole that comes with Deion Sanders being a head coach.
Yeah, I don't know.
Or even a coach.
Yeah, I just get really bad Urban Meyer vibes off it.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
yeah,
he's grand in college where he is, you know, the de facto guy in charge. He holds your college career in the palm of his hands. He can go out recruit, he can do all that, and he can kind of pretty much get who he wants. But when you get to the NFL level, you don't have anywhere near that kind of power.
Exactly.
And if you're not a good coach, and if you can't come up with a good scheme, you're found out and you're not going to last long. And that's what happened with Urban Meyer. He just couldn't make that transition to the professional, from being the guy everyone feared to basically being a guy in a locker room in a head coach where none of those players fear you because they know that they can get rid of a GM or an owner is going to get rid of a head coach before it gets rid of a whole locker room.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And look, the man has great talent. He is well revered in the cornerback sphere as well for his coaching, even before he became the head coach. You always see him in videos. So we're not necessarily critiquing his ability to coach, but as you said, Dara, in the college landscape, it's much easier for one guy to dominate and for there to be a bit of a cult of personality around him that can sway things and really dramatically sway things. In the NFL, it's really more about the numbers, the stats, and you have to be able to back it up. It's great having this circus. It's great having this media personality. But if you're not also adding wins in the win column, it kind of becomes irrelevant at the end. But before we move on, can I talk about one more thing that I hope this Daniel Jones scenario out of the New York Giants is starting to show cracks. And I hope it's starting to show cracks in the quarterback market, because now we have Daniel Jones has been paid an enormous amount of money. He will now not be a starting quarterback anywhere. The same with Deshaun Watson, okay, through injury, but let's be honest, if you weren't tied to the amount of outrageous guaranteed money the Browns would have given him, he was not living up to that contract either. There's Russell Wilson, the same for the Broncos. Again, no slide on him. He's having a bit of a rival with the Steelers. But my main point is these hugely inflated quarterback contracts that back in the day used to come along with winning a Super Bowl or multiple Super Bowls or multiple Pro Bowls, or sorry, not Pro Bowls, All Pro, are now just being handed out to the next starting quarterback that comes on, like a Trevor Lawrence and this kind of thing. And I think finally the market is going to start to crack where they're no longer sure. By that I mean, when these contracts were given out, it was like any starting quarterback is worth the money. But now we're seeing guys, because things are being accelerated, guys are starting younger, they're being pushed along this curve faster. Now they're getting to what the teams believe is a pinnacle or a stable zone where they're now of a certain standard and they can be risk-free in terms of paying a lot of money, and you're hoping for an upside. Now there's a downside starting to appear, and I hope it's finally going to put teams off super loading these QB contracts, super loading the guaranteed money, because the reality is now of the 10 guys, that's 3 already who have not lived up or have stopped being the starting quarterback very, very quickly after signing those massive contracts.
There's always stupid owners.
There's always rich owners, I think, is the main problem.
Scared GMs that are going to lose their jobs if they were to take a gamble on a rookie QB or it's someone who's not the next man up, as you call it, in terms of getting the contracts.
Like, if you look at Jacksonville, for instance, right? Trevor Lawrence hasn't lived up to the contract that he's gotten so far. They could have said in the offseason, you know what, Trev, you're asking for too much money. We'll go out and sign Sam Darnold and just roll with the journeyman. They could have done that, but the first GM to do that is going to be under severe pressure. I don't know if the benefit or the risk outweighs the reward in that sense. So I just don't know if we're ever going to see it. We might see a tempering of the QB market. So regardless of who you are, you're going to get top 10 money. I mean, now if you look at Mahomes, he's not even in the top 5, I don't think, top paid quarterbacks.
I think the top
league,
8, the top 8 paid quarterbacks by year have not won a Super Bowl. The top 8 by year salaries have not won a Super Bowl between them, which is, I think, incredible.
Utterly insane. But so it just takes one GM going, look, buddy, you're good, but you're not Patrick Mahomes. So you're not getting Patrick Mahomes money. Hopefully that does happen. And then it leaves more money elsewhere. Like the running back market, I think we're starting to see that pendulum swing back where 2 years ago, running backs weren't worth a shit. Nobody was getting paid. Now I think we're starting to see a coaching shift to the running game with this development of the 2 high safeties. It leaves a little bit more room in the box and running backs become more of a value. Therefore, they're going to get more of the contract share. So hopefully we do end up seeing that tempering off of the QB market, that it can get spread out to other positions on the pitch.
It's actually the top 15. There's only one quarterback that has won the Super Bowl.
Like, it's incredible.
Now, to be fair, Patrick Mahomes has won every Super Bowl for like the last couple of years anyway.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. How many Super Bowls or how many players currently active still have actually won a Super Bowl? Because only 2 of them have won the last 5 or 6 in a row.
Surely Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers are in the top 15 quarterbacks. Or are we talking overall contract value?
No, this is per year I'm looking at here.
Still said Aaron Rodgers was top 15. Well, that's crazy.
Aaron Rodgers, I think, is he making much for years? Let me check that.
Who's the last quarterback that won the Super Bowl that wasn't Mahomes or Brady? Is it go back to the Eagles and or is there one after
that? He's making just under 40 million. That's why he's not the top 15. Yeah.
Right.
Let's have a look at that. I think actually you're right, Rain. I think the last Super Bowl winner not to be named Brady or Mahomes is Nick Foles.
Yeah, in the Eagles. I'm pretty sure. I'm trying to remember. That's probably now 5 or 6 years ago. If you told me, I would believe that.
Yeah. So
Chiefs
like last year, Chiefs the year before. Actually, no. Sorry, I was wrong.
The Rams.
There is a second. Yeah, there is a second quarterback. Matt Stafford is tied 15th for top paid quarterbacks, and he obviously won it with the Rams.
And guess what? He's not worth it either. Boom.
He's like, what, 37 at this stage? You know?
Imagine he did get you that Super Bowl, so he absolutely was worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But imagine the Lions were the ones that got shafted in that trade. That they were like, oh my God, how could you give up like all that stuff, and then all you get back is Jared Goff? Like, absolutely, how are you going to get rid of him? Basically, like, why would you take him on? Just cut him. Like, how are you going to? No one's going to want them. And now he's like one of the top, probably I would say one of the leaders for the MVP this year, or at least top 3 quarterbacks.
I don't know. Is
not getting the fucking MVP?
No, not even that. I don't know. Is Goff's stats?
Yes. We had this conversation.
Really worth MVP level?
Yeah, we had this conversation when you were gone, right? He's not Lamar Jackson Flash, but he's absolutely destroying teams.
His stats aren't there though. Like
the run game.
He has a perfect game, like 20 for 20.
On
Sonic
19
and Knuckles are destroying teams.
You don't win the MVP throwing 19 passes a game.
How many touchdown passes has he thrown? We're going to fire it out.
I don't know, but look, that's partly down to fucking Dan Campbell's insane play calling.
Yeah, and you don't like that he buries shit teams for like 7
I mean,
touchdowns.
going for it on 4th down in the 4th quarter when you're up by 35, that's fucking bullshit, man. Have a bit of respect
love
for your
it.
opposition.
I love it. Do not
This
respect your
season-
opposition in
this
professional
season-
football. Bury them. Bums.
This season, he has 20 touchdowns with 9 interceptions.
Where does that rank now in terms of that's not bad. Top 5.
Yeah.
Top 5. That's pretty good. But I bet his
You would
attempts
want to
are
be
way
top
down.
1 or 2, though.
I bet his attempts are way down. They are. He's in 18th.
He's attempted 306 passes.
Yeah. There you go.
So, you know.
Oh, I just saw Tua Tagovailoa concussion protocol, 73% completion rate.
He's
That's
completed 73% of his concussions, has he?
Yeah, exactly. 73% of his concussion protocol is completed. That's what I was going to say. That's because every time he throws an incompletion, he just leads with his head and has to go off for 5 plays just to recuperate himself.
Well, it just shows though, like that with the Dolphins, they were averaging 10 points a game before while he was out, and now they're averaging 30.
Yeah. Well, that's what he thinks because he's seeing triple now whenever he looks at the scoreboard.
What was it? 4 touchdowns he threw at the weekend as well.
He only remembers 2, but if you tell him it's 4, he'd be pretty happy.
He can remember whatever he wants. It's helping my fancy team. I don't mind. Let him.
Honestly, I think in terms of MVP, though, I think we need to start talking about Saquon Barkley. Like he's not going
to get it. He's just not going to get it. It's
he's not a quarterback, but
we all agree he's the MVP.
He's the best player.
Get it, though. Yeah, 100% agree. But that's the ironic thing. Like we all agree he is the best player. He is the MVP. But there's pointless talking about him because he's not got a single chance. He's going to get like top. I bet you he doesn't even finish second in the vote. I bet you.
Do you know what? I'd say Jalen Hurts.
Hold on,
ahead of him.
Derrick Henry's stat is almost identical, and he's not getting anywhere near the hype.
That's true, but he doesn't do
Is the stat
backflip.
line identical? Really?
He doesn't
They
do
have
backflips.
they are like 50 yards in the difference.
That's ground yards. But what about total yards? I bet you Derrick Henry doesn't come near him in total yards.
I don't know.
Saquon does a lot of work out of the backfield. He's a bit like McCaffrey in that sense.
14, 21 total yards Derrick Henry has. Okay.
Yeah, okay, that's quite a lot. More than I thought.
Saquon Barkley, 1649.
Okay, that's quite a lot more. That's 200 more.
Yeah, 200 more yards in total purpose yards.
Has Derrick Henry had his bye week yet?
No.
Yeah, I think all teams have had their bye weeks now.
Have they? Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause there's only
Saquon
a few
has
weeks left.
12 total touchdowns.
Derrick Henry has more. 13. Okay.
15.
Henry all the way.
So, yeah. So the stats are very comparable, but like saying Saquon, Saquon does a backflip or backspin.
This is it. Like a
Hurdle.
no-look hurdle. Can't
Yeah.
really beat that. I mean, Derrick Henry literally obliterated a linebacker that we haven't heard of since for the Browns, but that's
By that logic, film, Terrace Marshall shouldn't have won the MVP that year with the sphincter catch.
He should have. He was my MVP, I have to say. Is he even still in the league?
He's like the 6th string at the Panthers. Like he's a practice squad dude.
Arena sphincter ball.
Yeah.
Has Jerry Jones
that's some skill
tried
now
to
if you're
trade
in
for
arena
him?
football. Just go to the back wall, lie over the top of it, and just ram it right up the sphincter.
Oh god.
That's one way to do it.
Yeah.
Who's
Anyway,
even
Mark.
hosting this, lads?
Yeah, we're a little bit all
No.
over the place, guys. So appreciate it.
It's
No.
tangent.
Appreciate
No
you
one's
for staying
no
with
one
us.
is.
If you are, we love the ticker. We have a ticker here for anyone who is not watching the live that counts the views that we're getting. It counts the YouTube views as concurrent, but it counts the Twitter views as anyone who's even seen it come up on their feed.
Scroll
So
past
it's
it.
great for our egos. It slowly ticks up as the things go on. We don't know who's listening. But yeah, so the other thing we had down to discuss was the kind of going back to the rookie quarterbacks. And obviously that's Williams, Daniels, and Bo Nix, and how that system has changed pretty quickly, even in kind of maybe the 2-3 weeks since we talked about it last. Williams looked abysmal. The Bears looked abysmal. Now, I don't know what you guys think, but from the media I've read, the professional media, let's call them, they seem to imply that the narrative of, well, they are changing the narrative of Caleb Williams, that he is now starting to outshine the poor Bears play, and that he's finally starting to look like a quarterback that I think everyone expected him to look like, coming out and hitting the ground running. So I'd be interested to see if that continues. And I think by that measure, it's probably totally inverted, where originally, obviously, after the first maybe 5-6 weeks, Daniels was by far and away the winner of in, let's say, the rookie quarterback of the year. I think you'd have to say, from what I've seen, Bo Nix has to be well and truly in control of that. We've seen a significant regression. I don't know where you guys think. Daniels might even be third now, based on the last kind of 3 weeks. The offensive output for the Commanders has seriously depleted. Now, offensive line issues, the running game has proven that. But let's be honest, he also hasn't looked dynamic just from the eye test, or as dynamic as he did in the first couple of games. So it'll be interesting to see where you guys rank, and maybe Rian, you start. What way do you see those three guys lining up?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's undisputable to say that Bo Nix is the number one rookie quarterback at the moment, as he probably should be, to be honest, with the level of experience that he had coming out of college. I think he had 5 years of full playtime in the college system. So he should be that little bit more mature than the other guys coming out. The regression from Daniels, I think, is mainly down to the O-line. To be honest, he did rely on that running game at the start of the season and kind of built off the back of that. So his dynamicism was built on the fact that they could run the football effectively. So now you have two guys in the backfield who could go in opposite directions and you don't know who has the ball, all that sort of thing. Now they're struggling, and it's easier to key in on a guy like Jaden Daniels now. Just contain, keep him in there, and see what he can do. Now, obviously, he's capable of throwing the ball downfield, as we even saw in the game versus the Cowboys at the weekend. He had some tough ones, but towards the second half, he got it going. He hit that nice long ball to Terry McLaurin to tie them up towards the end, or nearly tie them up towards the end. So, it's difficult to say whether or not he should rank ahead of Caleb Williams at the moment, because Caleb Williams, although he has been playing pretty well these last couple of weeks, it is only a couple of weeks, right? So it seems to be that since the offensive coordinator was ditched out there, they've moved on. The main focus has been getting the ball out of Caleb Williams' hands quickly. They've increased the screen game, seem to be going to DJ Moore a little bit more. And it's working for them until he gets into a deep passing situation, and then he holds onto the ball 5, 6, 7, 8 seconds. He has managed to break away, which makes him look very, very good, but he's still taking sacks for 13, 14 yards and 7 seconds off the clock. That's a worrying trait for me, something that he needs to eliminate from his game to really be talked about in terms of a truly effective rookie quarterback.
And Rain, just to build quickly before Dara tells us, I think I agree with you. I would back off a little bit in the sense of, I think that trait on its own is probably a good one, especially if you can show that you do real damage when you hold it that kind of 5, 6 seconds and eventually decide to scramble and it works, let's say 60% of the time. As long as you know that there's certain scenarios on the pitch in terms of position and time where a 12-yard sack is absolutely the worst thing you can take. And I don't think he's shown or had a chance maybe to show that he's proved he can sift through those scenarios and decide when is one I absolutely cannot hold this and get sacked. But yeah, in general, I agree with you. I think being able to run has made him look good. And if he can continue to improve his decision-making on when that happens, he has a chance. If he doesn't, and he keeps in his current form, I agree with you. I think too often he takes giant sacks. And in fairness to him, it's probably not helped by the fact that the Bears' offense isn't playing well enough to overcome those for him when he takes them. Whereas if you have a more explosive offense, I think you're willing to take those risks a little bit more. Dara, what way do you have these guys? And as Reen said, bearing in mind, Bo Nix, I think, was the first professor ever drafted. I think he made it all the way to assistant professor by the time he graduated university. He was in there so long.
Mm-hmm. Well, look, absolutely. If you're taking the votes right now, Bo Nix is number one. I'd still have Caleb, or not Caleb. I would have Caleb Williams at 3, Jaden Daniels at 2. Both Daniels and Williams are dealing with terrible O-lines. Both the Bears and Commanders are really struggling with it. I wonder, though, if Jaden Daniels is playing a little through injury at the moment. Because because I think he messed his ribs up a little bit in a game.
He never really
let it heal. No, he never really let it heal. And I think he's kind of playing his way through injury where I think, even sitting him a week could do a whole lot of help for just to help heal it. Because I know it's so tight at the top between them and the Eagles at the top of the NFC East, but this was never meant to be a playoff year for the Commanders anyway. So, if you do miss out on the playoffs because you decide to focus on the long-term health of your future franchise quarterback, do it. This is the year to do it.
Yeah. Do you think that's motivated at all by the fact that the Seahawks are sitting right behind them in the conference standings, and if they did continue to lose, that the Seahawks would take that position in the wildcard spot? Do you think
Seahawks are ahead?
We don't need a wildcard spot. They're top of the division,
top baby. Of their division. Yeah, we don't need it. We're good. It's the Cardinals at the moment that are breathing down their neck. Yeah, Cardinals at the moment.
That's true. But also, I will say, Dara, I think he's also suffering from a bit of Cliff Kingsbury-itis. The main reason Cliff Kingsbury didn't make it as a head coach is because his concepts are fantastic. His applications in-game are not always brilliant. And so we've seen this regression of the stuff worked great. And as the comms said, and I've heard it now 2 or 3 games in a row where these expert analysts that I'm going to listen to are saying, okay, great. What's the wrinkle? Second half of the season, you have to have a wrinkle because now everyone has 7, 8, 9 games of what you're trying to do. And it doesn't always work. And look, they've also noticed they go hurry up. I really like, always tends to work, except it means you got to have Terry McLaurin over one side. And guys are just putting their best corners on Terry McLaurin. And because you're going fast and you're not trying to burn him out, they're not swapping sides. And so it's quite easy to cover and it limits his side. Right, half the time he's going to be playing, let's say, on the short side of the field. And so I think that can be quite difficult for the Commanders to overcome. But sorry, I interrupted. What was going to be your follow-on point?
No, I think it's interesting that you mentioned about Kingsbury because this is the exact playbook in terms of season that it's playing out the same way it did for all of his years in Carolina, or not Carolina. Sorry, in the Cardinals. Off to a hot start. I think I can't remember was his last season or season before that I think they started 8-0, 9-0 or something like that. And then just the second half of the season, teams figure it out. He doesn't have a way to change it, or he just thinks that he can persevere with the same way. And then they just end up falling to pieces at the end of it. I thought maybe that's just the whole thing. Maybe being a head coach and having all that pressure is going to do that. And maybe if he goes back to being a play caller, that it could help. Or it won't happen again, but it seems to be happening again at this moment. But I'm still unsure if it is him or if it is the injury to Jaden Daniels. I don't know. We'll only find out over the next, I say, 2-3 weeks. But yeah, it's just
Call of Duty came out as well, which was another issue for a Cliff Kingsbury quarterback.
Actually, he went 4-0. I think it was 3-0 when Call of Duty came out. Kyler was until last week. So, and the Seahawks social media did have a lot of fun with that when they were posting wins just about it. But yeah, it's weird. I hope for Commander's sake, Fionn, that he can turn it around, and it'd be nice to see you guys make a playoff run to cap off what has been a really positive first season under Dan Quinn.
Yeah.
You know, because I always worry, because now we're seeing it play out this year. I always worry when you get a standout rookie QB in a team that's not meant to do anything this year. They end up doing something, and then the following year they drop off. We're seeing that with the Texans this year. That they, first of all, they're blessed that they're in a terrible division, because if it was in a good division, they wouldn't be top of it right now. And we're seeing what did you say, the sophomore slump?
Yeah, that's what they call it.
CJ Stroud at the moment. I think we're seeing the sophomore slump with the D'Amico Ryans as well, because the defense is not playing anywhere near as good as it was last year either. So I hope for yourself and the Commanders' case that's not going to happen next year. But there is always that one team that overperforms one year and then you could say regresses to the mean the following year, or just takes a slump.
Yeah, I think so. I think, look, that's why we got so excited at the start of the season. And look, ultimately, I think expectations are the biggest killer. There was none coming into the season. It very quickly grew. And now that we're probably playing where we expected to play, the offensive line was a known issue, or at least a known weak point. We knew that Jaden Daniels would have to be very lucky to be healthy the whole way. And we knew that Cliff Kingsbury didn't succeed as a head coach. So while he has a lot of very cool, interesting concepts, he's got some stuff he needs to learn still and work on his game. And if he's going to be the play caller, which he is for the Commanders, then I think it's where the issues are going to be. So yeah, I'm not surprised. It would be great. I think it's worth it for Daniels and a couple of other guys to get to the playoffs. I think that will be a just reward for the good start to the season that they had. But again, we said it at our, I think in week 5 or week 6, when we did our fraud watch, that they hadn't beaten anybody on that good run that they had of the season. They hadn't beaten any good teams. And I think that's probably going to be the trend we'll see going up to the season, where they're good enough to beat the teams they should beat, but they're very unlikely to beat a team that's ranked as a winning season or ranked above them. And I think that's where we're going to see. I think they've got Titans. They probably win that one. They've got the Eagles. I would see them struggling on that. Saints might win. Falcons, I think by that stage, may be on a losing record. Let's see how they bounce back from their, I think they had their bye week this week. So let's see what they look like on Sunday. And then obviously finishing with the Cowboys, which is going to be another challenge. And as we've said all season, these division games are unto themselves. I don't think they follow particularly the narrative of the season in anyone's division. I think the division games are always a little bit different. So if they can bounce back, they have a chance. But again, it may be that they kind of cruise along. They beat kind of even and less teams, and they struggle against teams with winning records. So I think that's been the case so far. And I kind of expected to be the way they end the last 5 games of the season roll out.
Yeah, fully agree. Will we wrap up then? I think that we've exhausted all of our topics, unless anybody has anything else you want to speak of before we call it a day. No?
Bryce Young is back, baby!
Dave Canales is the QB whisperer for sure.
Yeah, all it takes is your backup quarterback getting in a car accident and you're off to the races.
Hey, look what happened to Justin Herbert. It took a needle in Tyrod Taylor's lung to get him to play. So,
and where's he now? Nowhere.
He's backing up Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
Probably shouldn't be backing up Aaron Rodgers.
Should be starting.
I was actually thought he was going to start this weekend against the Seahawks, because there was talk about them sitting Aaron or putting him on IR for his injuries. But he was on McAfee today saying that he's absolutely fine and he's going to play. So, you know. Good to hear from our Jets' fearless leader, anyway, to say that he's okay. But look, that's where we'll wrap up this edition of the show. Lads, thank you as always.
Thank you, Dara.
Been a pleasure.
Make sure you are following us on our socials at UnderCenterPod on Twitter and Instagram. If you are watching this on YouTube today, first of all, thank you. Secondly, please like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We really appreciate it. We're still on the road to try and get up to that magical 1,000 subscribers. We are over halfway there, which is absolutely fantastic to see. If we can get there, let's say if we get 700 by Super Bowl, I say we're doing a good job for sure as we head in, of course, to the AFI season. We'll be back again next week. If you missed any of this show and you want to listen to it on the go, Under Center Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, that's where you're going to find the edition of the show so you can listen back whenever you need to. But until next time, stay safe. We'll see you soon.